Hi everyone, it's Fiona here and I'm back with my weekly newsletter. It's Friday, so let's have a look at my Friday 5 and see what's been going on this week. This week I'm really inspired by a documentary I've been watching on HBO, The Crime of the Century. I don't know whether you've had a chance to see it yet. It's all about the opioid crisis in the US and how a marketing strategy of involving doctors and changing our perception of how to treat pain has kind of had these enormous consequences. But it raises some really interesting things about what we think about pain and what we think is one should do about pain. So yeah, I'm really inspired. You already know that it's on my YouTube channel. So let's hop in and see a little bit more about what's going on with pain, how Vedic astrology can help, how pain links with life coaching, because it's really easy to think that life coaching is all about setting goals, and in some ways it really is, right? And this is maybe that pure NLP life coaching that we all started 20, 30 something years ago, was if you can define it, you can achieve it. And it is true. But NLP reminds us that as well as being motivated towards something, a goal, for example, many of us are also motivated away from something, avoiding a difficult task, a difficult conversation, an obstacle, a risk, a threat. And this away from motivation is very strong and it's often hidden. So we're kind of being pushed around in our life away from what we really want to achieve because we want to avoid something else. So as a life coach, often where the most powerful work is in those hidden, forgotten, run away from triggers that we have. And that's why Vedic astrology is so useful, because it helps us to find these triggers that we've just been running away from, perhaps, most of our life. And when we can turn around and face those things and breathe, we realize often they're paper tigers. They're not even, they don't stand up to any examination, but until we stay still and face them, we can't even ask that question. So this is what I'm exploring in the newsletter this week. I've got a link here to the way that pain was thought about in the past. There's been lots of different theories about pain. But for example, 150 years ago, it was seen as a great sign. If a patient is feeling pain, it means that their vitality is strong and that their chance of recovery is strong. And we also know that in other cultures, there are rituals about pain that help people realize the power of the mind over sensations in the body, or emotional pain as well. And we've seen about walking on hot coals, or all of those kind of rituals. The one that's linked here is to a sun ceremony in North American or Native American tribes. But we really lack that in our culture, right? We don't have a place in our culture for celebrating pain or overcoming pain or seeing pain as something that is normal and that can be transcended or is coming as a teacher. We just don't have any place for it, because in the time that I've been growing up, I remember, how pain has been added to the like they say here, the fifth vital sign to those doctors' questions. And it's possibly with good intentions or possibly with marketing intentions. But regardless, it's kind of a half diagnostic. It's not really full enough to help people manage their pain, and it leads to the doctor thinking that we need to numb the pain and the patient thinking that we need to numb pain. So therefore, a huge rise in the number of painkillers that we use. But, yoga really teaches us how to listen to the body, how to understand the language of the body and the way the body communicates with us. It's the whole purpose of all of those asanas, is to give us practice and give us expertise in, or skill in, knowing when the sensations that we're getting from the body are helpful, and they're training our body and they're giving us useful feedback, and to know when the body is being pushed too far and that we're experiencing pain that is unhelpful, that we should back off from. And so yoga, like that actual asanas practice, the yoga poses, is really helpful for that. But all of the 8 limbs of yoga help us to learn how to work with our mind. Our mind is going to attach to anything. It's the nature of the mind. It's going to attach to something. And Ashtanga, or the 8 limbs of yoga, are really teaching us how to attach the mind to spirit, to our metaphysical experience, to the power of our awake consciousness, to being aware of what's going on with us. So yoga is a great place to start with this, and really good conversations about the difference between pain and suffering, and how to stay in the body when we're feeling uncomfortable sensations. So really fantastic body of work is yoga. And that's also where astrology, right, it's the same culture, the same school. Vedic astrology is really good at helping us to identify the patterns in the chart that are difficult, and that lead us to feel discomfort and want to avoid or run away from. And whereas, we might think of astrology from magazines or whatever, that astrology is very positive. And I think maybe Western astrology is tilted towards that direction, which is also obviously wonderful for people to understand the strengths that they have and the unique strengths that they have. Vedic astrology perhaps is tilted the other way, or certainly seems that when you come from Western astrology. Debilitation of planets, unhelpful aspects of planets, avasthas that are difficult. They're kind of front and center in Vedic astrology, so there's no hiding from them, which makes Vedic astrology a great place to be able to see the patterns in your chart that are difficult and are probably causing pain. And so then for the rest of the newsletter here, we've got just a really brief discussion about the 12th house is maybe a key place that you want to start looking when we think about avoiding pain. Because the 12th house is an extremely spiritual house. It's a moksha house. It's about transcending. But of course, under the right circumstances, that can actually be escaping, running away from, and avoiding. And so the 12th house, where it is, like, is it in an air sign, a water sign, that sort of thing. Also, the owner of that 12th house, what condition that planet is in, and what it's undergoing. Is it with difficult planetary lords from other houses? And also the 12th house itself, if it's got a lot of planets there, that can mean that we give a lot of attention to that transcendent or escape space in our reality. And, ascendant to ascendant is different where that 12th house is going to be. For example, if you are an Aquarius ascendant, you're naturally going to have the first house of your life path ruled by the same planet as the 12th house of transcending. And that would be ruled by Saturn, which is can be a very hard planet to experience, to be at peace with. So each ascendant's going to have its own combination of where the 12th house naturally is. So do you know where your 12th house is? Do you know who rules it? Do you know what kind of sign it's in? Are there many planets in there? And what's going on with the ruler of the house? These are the kind of things that you want to look at. And this will probably tell you stuff that hopefully you already know. But it helps to explain, like, are you the kind of person that can have the half empty bottle of white wine in the fridge for weeks? Or are you someone that can't even keep chocolate biscuits in the house because they'll just all be gone? Because it helps us understand the pressure that's in our chart to escape from things, which is not to say that there wouldn't be other factors making us impulsive and eat chocolate biscuits anyway. So 12th house, get to know your 12th house and see what factors are playing there. And then I've got a whole series on my YouTube channel, which I'm still adding to. It's one of those things that there are many factors in the chart that can cause discomfort, pain, and agony that we can be almost unconsciously running away from all the time. So instead of directing our life to where we want to go, we are just trying to get away from things. And that might be planetary relationships. So as well as the agony series, I have some videos on Lajjitaadi Avasthas there and on the shamed Lajjitaadi Avasthas. But you can also get active planetary sabotage, where every time you try to make a move in a certain direction, you try to move forward, you try to do something positive or hopeful for your life, other planets actively undermine that. That's Drik Bala, and can be quite difficult. Of course, the placement of Saturn is really important. We've got the dasas of the nodes of Rahu and Ketu. They can be difficult. Just having a planet with Rahu or Ketu can be difficult, and so many more things. So Vedic astrology, your chart, looking at it through Vedic astrology, can help, a bit like we talked about in last week's newsletter with the topography. It can help you just objectify it a little bit and just see where those weak points are. And then you can, with your astrologer or, you know, with your own knowledge of planets or of different energies, come up with targeted strategies to address those combinations so that you're kind of getting to the root of that energy pattern. So if you want to talk anything about that, love talking about the layout of the chart. And then finally here in 4 and 5, number 4, a reminder about how useful meditation is, because all of the 8 limbs are helpful, and asanas are helpful because they help us learn to communicate with the body. Pranayama is helpful because it brings us into the body. It connects us with body time. And at the same time, it increases the flow of prana, or if you just want to think about it, the flow of oxygen, so that we're feeling more grounded and more energized. And then Pratyahara, the 5th limb of yoga, you know, we're going to learn how to withdraw our attention from the senses. So we realize that all of this input, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, that we are separate from that. We're existing completely separate from our sensory data that's coming in. And then 6, 7, and 8 are all about meditation. And I have here for you a guided meditation about becoming still and being, rather than running away from pain. So you might like to check that out. And as always, you're welcome to come along to meditation 3 days a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And if you like the artwork, this one, I don't know that it can go much bigger. Yeah, this diagram is all about the Ashtanga of yoga. You can purchase that on my Vedic art website, and you have the link there. And finally, just a reminder, I'm so excited to be hosting the Astrolojam coming up in the first Sunday of June. It's going to be up to 10 astrologers. We're researching one chart. It's a great chance to hear different astrologers and their approaches. It's a great chance to test out, do astrologers really see the same things in the same chart? If you have like just that interest, that skeptical interest in what is astrology and how is that possible, won't it be fascinating to see different people have their own take based on the astrology data? So I'd love you to book your place. Come along either as an astrologer. When you book, you get the birth data that we're looking at. It is someone that one of the participants picked for us, because there is a documentary, I think maybe even an autobiography documentary, or like made by the person or with the person's participation, so that you can, as you're doing your research, match it up to the documentary if you like to do it that way. Or you can come as an interested observer. You don't have to participate. You won't be put on the spot. If you like to dabble in astrology but you don't feel confident, don't worry. I won't make you contribute if you don't want to, but you might just want to come to hear what people have to say and see their different approaches. It's going to be a very learning environment, a very fun environment, very collegiate environment. It's not about being competitive or being right or some methodology being better than someone else's. So I'll be all over any of that. So you can rest assured it'll be a very safe and enjoyable space. So I hope you will book your space on that Astrolojam and come and hang out with me on the first Sunday in June. And then just a reminder, as always, about the mailing list, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook page. And if all of this conversation about pain has interested you, if you feel like there are hidden things driving you in directions that you don't even know why anymore, maybe a coaching session around astrology is going to really help unlock, get you back to your authentic center and see where you're being pushed around, hopefully by paper tigers as we examine them. And you might know someone who could really benefit from a compassionate, holistic conversation about their pain. So feel free to forward this newsletter onto them or to book a reading using the buttons down below. All right, and as we have one of my favorite photos here, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. So I find that that is the case, that we have inside of us all of the gems that we need to live the sparkling, fulfilling, alive, enjoyable life that we want. But it means we have to get into our whole self and reconnect to that authentic space, which Vedic astrology is so helpful for. So I look forward to seeing you either for a session or on Astrolojam, or for any conversation that you want to have about pain. And until then, I guess I'll just see you next week. Okay, bye.